Hi, Chris Chopic, evolutiongreen.com. And my question, I want to take this a little further, and is have we really taken the electric vehicle out of the context of our car vernacular and what people are used to buying, and really explored where we can take this? And so I think of something like a Yabba Dabba Doo mobile that allows me to use my body as well as and lighten the load necessarily of all of the resource intensity and energy that's required to create the vehicle.
People have talked about human gas hybrids or tribrids, but I don't know if we need.
The only comment I would make about that is, and again, going back to Sevag's presentation, he talked about this net zero neighborhood, right, or community. In a community like that where you have a lot of local resources in terms of your food needs and other things, you have a lot less need for transport, for one thing. But also, as we are becoming more urbanized, we can look at actually different types of vehicles. And GM did this project with Segway, where they made this basically two-person Segway with a cabin over it, and they were driving it around New York City. And that's not tomorrow's mass market vehicle, but is it part of our future? I think so.
Yeah, and in Auto Future Tech 2 years ago, we had a session about car connectivity, and cars are inexorably becoming more electric and computerized and more like personal mobility appliances. So I think that is a direction. I mean, some people forecast that is the big game changer, the car connected on an energy IT grid. I think that's off to the future, but that is a definite pathway that folks are exploring. Next question, please.
Hi, I'm Romilly Cavanaugh with Offsetters. We've heard from the panel that definitely from a greenhouse gas point of view, hybrid cars and electric cars are much more beneficial than a conventional car. And we encourage our clients to switch their fleets over into that direction. But sometimes we get a question back, okay, if we look not just at greenhouse gases, but at the overall impact of these cars, is there a way to explain to clients that you've kind of touched on the issue of the rare metals, but there's a perception amongst some people that, okay, on the greenhouse gas side, they're definitely better, but overall, can you make the case that they're better?
Talking about air quality.
All of those things, like the manufacturing side of it, the extraction of the rare metals, the whole package, not just the greenhouse gas side.
I'll touch briefly on it. I think that that's definitely important, and when you're doing any life cycle assessment, obviously greenhouse gases and energy use is just one piece. You also want to think about water use, land use, eutrophication, photochemical smog, a whole host of issues that arise from making things. I think it's difficult to communicate that individually to a client because each client might have different preferences and needs. One client might want to save more water, one client want to have more land availability. I think overall, it would be important to have a thorough life cycle assessment. However, most of the impacts that we're talking about usually track energy use. And if we can use energy as a proxy for the rest of these damages, then we can probably, within the range of uncertainty, say that we're doing okay with plug-ins and EVs versus our conventional fleet.
I'm Luke Westphal from Hatch. I had two quick questions. One, it looks like if we're talking about the type of shift in the fleet of the magnitude that you're talking about, it seems like the electricity system is going to be faced with having to clean up the grid, but also having to increase capacity. So I'd like you guys to comment, if possible, on the challenges that they would face for that. My next question is about rare earths, and I'm wondering, considering the small reserves for rare earths, is there enough rare earths available to be able to meet the demand for electric vehicles? Thanks.
Let's start with the rare earth question for David.
I would say yes, there are enough rare earths available. As demand goes up, of course, price follows, which means we can start exploiting lower value resources. It's often said that the rare earths aren't rare. Mother Nature doesn't put them together in mineable quantities. That's what makes them difficult. They are widely distributed, more so than copper. And the winning of those rare earth metals from a wider disseminated distribution is going to cost more. But the supplies are essentially there.
But wasn't there maybe 2 or 3 months ago a bit of a scare when China announced that they were going to be using, you'll have to help me on the name of the exact rare earth metals, but essential earth metals for the use in motors primarily, and a little bit in batteries. So they said they were going to use them for domestic, meaning Chinese use, rather than allowing them to be exported, and that created a stir. So is it that they're available, but they're behind national lines that could create difficulties in accessing them?
This is a good point. To back up for a moment, the rare earths are essential to your nickel metal hydride battery, for example. M is for rare earths, if you will. The one that you couldn't twist your tongue around, neodymium.
Neodymium.
Is a light rare earth. It's readily available. The problem when you start building the neodymium iron boron magnet, which has 100-fold the strength of a ferrite magnet with attendant energy efficiencies. As the strength of the magnet goes up, its Curie temperature goes down. As the Curie temperature goes down, you come to a threshold at which magnetism goes away. That's the Curie temperature. In the underhood application of a magnet where you have, in particular, a hybrid car, you could pull out to pass somebody on the highway and your electric motor would turn to a piece of junk. It's just an alloy, it's no longer a magnet. That's countered by 2 other rare earths, terbium and dysprosium, which raise the Curie temperature and make your electric car much more viable.
So you're not seeing that as the national and trade issues as being an obstacle?
Mother Nature was not kind to us. The rare earths are not equally abundant. They start at what we call the light rare earths and end with the heavy rare earths. There are some 17 of them. The world could be awash in light rare earths. That includes neodymium. Whereas China is producing perhaps 125,000, 130,000 tons of rare earth oxides a year presently, between 2 Australian companies and the former producer in California. In the past month, they've announced an 80,000 ton objective.
Okay, so when the market calls for it, it will...
Problematic is it's all light rare earths. They don't contain the terbium or dysprosium, and China is a unique supply to those 2 elements.
And they reversed their policy as soon as they said that they were going to prohibit it. Well, we probably should move on.
Of course, they would rather build an electric car and sell it to you rather than have you manufacture it here in the States or Canada.
Right. So, and then the other question I'll just cover really quickly because we did discuss it last time. It seems that the capacity for the grid to provide all these future millions of electric cars, it becomes more of an issue the more local it gets. So at the broadest generation level, yes, there's capacity, but when it comes down to the transformer level in a neighborhood, if at exactly the same time, 5 or 6 different cars all plugged in at the same time, it could burn out transformers. That's one of the key strategies that the utility companies are following and trying to figure out, okay, can we predict how many plug-in car owners there will be in a certain postal code based on conventional hybrid adoption, and do we need to start bringing those transformers up to capacity to handle that extra load? So it's identified as a problem at the local level, not at the broad level, and it's being addressed in due course. Before I let you go, I'd like an extremely succinct answer, let's say 30 to 45 seconds, about how green plug-in cars are. Are plug-in cars really greener than conventional hybrids or cars that do not plug into the grid? Well, let's go start with Dave and work our way back to me. Very short answer.
I would say when you nut it all down, they would be. they will be. When the time comes, we'll deliver the materials to you, and we'll do so in an economical way.
Great. Luke?
Plug-in vehicles are cleaner than the cars that are on the road today, and they'll become cleaner in the future.
2 thumbs up for particularly for range extension electric vehicles, both for the vehicle as a means of mobility, but also for the synergies that it can produce.
So none of us should be in the business of picking winners, especially in a space as diverse as this. However, as I mentioned to Brad yesterday, plug-in and electric have all the attributes of a winner. Right? They have some of the attributes that are robust even under all the uncertainty that we have, in that we know under very low carbon electricity that they can be very, very clean. So it's going to be an exciting decade, and we'll know whether or not we're going to be in the place we want to be within the next few years.
With that, I'd like to thank our panelists. Everyone give a round of applause.